5 spine-chilling trucker tales. Discover the sinister secrets they revealed about haunted Arrhodius Jacobs' truck rattled down the desolate stretch of highway. The pale glow of an eerie moon casting elongated shadows against the cracked pavement. His eyes were heavy, fatigue pulling at him like gravity. Just ahead, the flickering neon sign of a dilapidated diner blinked with the relentless urgency of a warning. The kind of place that seemed to whisper secrets into the night. He pulled in, weary and burdened, longing for the embrace of hot coffee, but unaware of the darkness lurking within the cracked vinyl seats. Inside, the diner hummed with a low buzz, fluorescent lights casting an unwelcoming glow. Felt sterile yet menacing. A group of old truckers huddled in a corner booth, their voices low, edged with an instinctual caution. Jake's ears perked up, curiosity igniting a flicker of dread. Their conversation shifted into spine-chilling tales, stories of ghostly hitchhikers, phantom trucks tumbling endlessly down the blacktops, brothers lost to the roads that bred nightmares. Each story dripped with sorrow, a haunting echo that mirrored Jacobs' own life. A bitter divorce, a daughter he rarely saw. A cold chill snaked through him. Rooting deep into his bones, he gripped his coffee with trembling hands, the warmth doing little to thaw the icy grip of despair. As he listened, time morphed, the tales swirling around him until they became palpable. Visions danced at the edges of his mind, visions of lost friends and highways that turned to graveyards. Each passing minute was a swift reminder that hope had a cost, and the price was often too steep. Before he could fully digest the horror, Jake slipped his wallet onto the counter and made his way back to the truck, a sense of urgency pressing against his chest. The engine roared to life, drowning out the whispers, but the shadows lingered. As he drove down the stretch of vacant highway, the familiar hum of tires on asphalt suddenly felt oppressive. Alone in the night, he felt the weight of unseen eyes watching him. Unsure whether it was the fatigue or something more sinister, he forced his focus forward. Then he saw her. A pale hitchhiker stood under the flickering street lamp, the veil of night draping her in an otherworldly glow. Hollow eyes stared back at him, a gut-wrenching pang of recognition tearing into his heart. She flickered in and out of focus, stirring a darkness in his soul that he couldn't ignore. Memories of his daughter floated amidst the fog of sorrow, smiles and laughter tainted by loss. He didn't stop. He sped past, the taste of regret sharp on his tongue. Miles unfurled like a tightrope beneath him, and with every beat, the air grew thicker. Odd reflections mirrored his headlights, faces from childhood flashing in and out, phantoms of his past. Shadows twisted inside the cab, echoing laughter drawing him into a descent. The roads he rode felt alive, twisting, turning into a labyrinth of dread. Off in the distance, an abandoned town loomed, its eerie stillness almost inviting. Jake couldn't shake the nagging feeling that he was tracing the path of someone already lost, someone who had vanished under the indifferent gaze of the pavement. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Suddenly, Jake felt the suffocating weight of betrayal creeping up his spine. The familiar roads that once brought him solace now felt treacherous, sinister forces pulling him deeper into a realm he didn't understand. Tendrils of paranoia wrapped around him as he thought of the shadows of authority-kind faces that danced with malevolence. He raced further into the void, the lines blurring between reality and haunting illusions. Dread tightened its grip, a relentless force in pursuit, leaving Jake to question if he could ever escape or if the haunting roads had claimed him as their own. The night whispered secrets, and as he drove on, he felt the pull of unspeakable horrors, ones that thrived on the edges of despair. Would he find salvation, or was he destined to vanish into the darkness forever? Jake's grip on the steering wheel tightened as he lurched through the remnants of that abandoned town. The streetlights flickered like dying fireflies, struggling to push back the encroaching darkness. Shadows loomed larger with every mile, each passing moment feeling more like a glimpse into a world he was meant to avoid. The thought of turning back flickered through his mind, but curiosity and fear intertwined, pulling him deeper. Suddenly, the radio crackled to life. A chilling voice cut through the static, sending chills down his spine. Lost souls wander these roads, searching for a way home. Beware the ones you pass in the night. The voice held a haunting familiarity, the same tone the old truckers had used, heavy with warning. He fumbled to turn it off, but the more he twisted the dial, the clearer it became. His heart raced. There was something about that voice, something agonizingly close to his own memories. Ahead, a figure materialized on the roadside, not far from where he had seen the hitchhiker earlier. An old man stood leaning on a rusted sign, faded letters spelling out, "Welcome to Green Hollow." His clothes were tattered, mismatched, each patch whispering tales of the road. The man raised a hand, beckoning Jake with a slow, deliberate motion. A deep dread washed over him, threatening to swallow him whole. Jake felt an irrational urge to stop. Instinct forced his foot against the brake. The truck sputtered as he hesitated, heart pounding, mind racing, fighting the weight of not just fatigue but something ancient and fearful. The man's hollow eyes seemed to peer directly into his soul, wrenching at every buried emotion. Memories of past neglect danced like shadows on the edges of his mind. "Come here," the voice slithered through the night, soft yet commanding, like an echo of someone he once trusted. "You can't escape what haunts you, not here." Suddenly, Jake slammed the gas pedal, ripping himself away from the roadside apparition. The truck roared ahead, tires screeching against the asphalt. But he couldn't shake the feeling of being pursued, eyes boring into his back. Panic surged through him, knotting in his stomach. But then came the whispers, a chorus of vagueness, rising from the depths of his mind. The voices from the diner, the cryptic warnings, lost souls. He squeezed his eyes shut, but the memories clawed their way back. A memory of a night not far from here, a child's laughter chased by a scream. Jake swore he could hear it now. Riding the wind through the cracked windows, he turned sharply, seeking refuge on a side road, but the familiar landscape morphed. Buildings twisted in the dark, silhouettes stretching into grotesque shapes. The air thickened, pressing down on him, suffocating. Opening his eyes, he realized he was in a maze of twisted streets, one that shouldn't exist. He pulled over, desperate for some grounding. The truck's engine sputtered before dying, leaving him in eerie silence. As he stepped outside, the chill met his skin, biting like needles. The faint sound of laughter drifted through the night, sweet yet sinister, coaxing him further into the abyss of anxiety. Jake looked around, breath hitching. The last glimmer of hope faded as he caught sight of the pale hitchhiker again, standing just beyond the dying glow of the street lamp. She seemed closer now, and with every heartbeat, the shadows danced tighter around him, pulling him deeper into their grip. He could almost hear her whisper, "You should have stopped for me," trapped, with nowhere to run. He felt the weight of the darkness settle over him, whispering forgotten fears. Could he confront the ghosts of his past, or was he doomed to become just another lost soul on these cursed roads? And within that terrible question, there was no answer, only the sound of fading laughter guiding him into oblivion. The laughter pricked at Jake's skin like icy fingers. He turned, desperate to escape, but the shadows seemed to weave themselves tighter around him. Every direction felt wrong, every path a potential trap. The hollow-eyed man he had passed seemed to be everywhere now, his laughter joining that of the hitchhiker, creating a grotesque symphony of lost souls. "Get back in the truck," he hissed to himself, his pulse pounding in his ears. He snapped around, instinctively reaching for the truck door, its reassuring familiarity lost amid the mounting dread. The biting cold seeped into his bones as he fumbled with the handle. The door creaked open, the sound echoing into the mist, urging him onward as he clambered into the driver's seat. A thick fog rolled across the ground, enveloping the truck in spectral silence. The engine whined in protest but eventually began to roar back to life, a sound that soothed his panic, if only slightly. Gritting his teeth, he spun the wheel and slammed on the gas. The tires screeched, kicking up gravel as he aimed for the dim outline of the road. Suddenly, his headlights flickered. Darkness loomed just beyond the reach of the beam, where trees swayed like silent sentinels. Jake's breath quickened. "Stay focused," he muttered. But the laughter echoed again, louder, nearer, wrapping him in its chilling embrace. Ahead, the road forked. Each path looked equally foreboding. A sliver of intuition tugged at him to take the left, a direction he could only describe as safer. As he veered onto the gravel, the laughter faded momentarily, replaced by an oppressive silence that felt more suffocating than before. With every turn, the landscape distorted. Flickers of movement manifested in the corners of his vision, barely glimpses of shadowy figures, always just out of reach. They watched him. Jake could feel it. Sweat dripped down the back of his neck, turning the air sticky and heavy. He jerked the wheel again. Thoughts spiraling back to the child's laughter, the echo of joy ultimately turned to screams. His heart raced. The sun, a distant memory now, was lost behind an impenetrable shroud of clouds. Every flicker of headlights illuminated grotesque shapes in the foliage, twisted faces that seemed to mouth silent cries of warning. That soothing voice returned, softer now yet no less terrifying. "Drive until you can't," it whispered, fading in and out like a broken radio signal. Jake's hands shook. Could he trust it? Or was this another trick? Another seduction leading him toward the abyss? Out of desperation, he slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching as the truck slid to a halt. In that haunting moment of stillness, the fog swirled around him, and the shadow of the hitchhiker appeared outside his window, her eyes piercing through the gloom like searchlights. "Jake," she crooned, her voice dripping with something sweet yet sinister. "Why did you leave me?" He couldn't breathe. A cold smoke seemed to seep through the cracks of the windshield, filling the cab with an overwhelming sense of despair. He was back on that night, the night he had driven past her without a second thought. The crushing regret morphed into staggering terror as he realized it wasn't just his past haunting him. It was her, seeking vengeance. What could he do? With trembling fingers, Jake turned the key to restart the engine, but it coughed and sputtered, refusing to cooperate as the laughter ramped back up, now a cacophonous chorus. Dread pooled in his stomach. He was trapped. What came next? Through the swirling fog, something shifted behind the hitchhiker. A darker shape, hulking, moving. A fleeting glimpse of towering shadows filled him with raw panic. Then everything went dark. With the engine dead and the creatures closing in, he was left gasping for answers. What waited just out of sight? Would he find a way out? Or was he destined to join the lost souls that wandered these haunted roads forever? A chilling silence settled again, the laughter now replaced with a low growl. The finality loomed, and he knew something had come to reclaim him. Jake's heart hammered in his chest, panic flooding his veins like a lethal poison. Darkness blanketed him, smothering whatever flicker of hope he had left. He could hear the hitchhiker's voice drifting closer, a twisted lullaby that drowned him in guilt. "You could have helped me, you should have helped me." The sound of scratching came from the left side of the truck. Nails against metal. He couldn't even muster the courage to turn his head, fearing what he might see. A flicker of movement at his rearview mirror caught his eye, shadows flicking in and out like dying fireflies. He glanced, and there it was, the hulking shape now looming behind him, features obscured but unmistakably human, distorted by rage or sorrow. "No!" he yelled, punching the ignition again. The engine sputtered, old machinery whining like a wounded animal, resisting the very life he desperately called forth. The growl outside deepened, as though something were breathing breath heavy and foul against the cold night. "Jake," the hitchhiker said again, her voice threaded with malice. "You can't escape me. You never could." He felt her presence, a noose tightening around his throat, heavier than air, darker than night. Could he survive? Was there a way back? "Please, please, just leave me alone," he begged. With a violent jolt, the engine finally roared to life. He slammed the gear into drive and tore away from the ghostly figure. Stones flew from under the tires as he backed up, pain lancing through him as he split his attention between looking out and forcing the truck forward. The right path blurred into obscurity, steep banks of dirt, and gnarled branches clawing at him. But the laughter surged again, 1,000 voices rising in a grotesque harmonization that crept under his skin, igniting dormant fears. Could he drive away from what was manifesting itself? Was he only propelling toward deeper horrors? Ahead, the road opened up, a sickly green glow illuminating the horizon like a tainted moon. A wave of heat crashed against him, unsettling and surreal. Against his better judgment, he pressed the gas, barreling toward the glow, whatever hope offered by the light cutting through the fog. The closer he got, shadows pooled at the edges of his vision, phantoms rising and falling like waves on an invisible sea. Inexplicable whispers threaded through the air, teasing at memories he locked away. A crash, a scream, a child's laughter reverting to agony. Jake's grip tightened around the steering wheel, knuckles white. "Get out of my head," he yelled, voice cracking as the truck lurched forward. The glow transformed into a pulsating orb, an entrancing light, wrapping him in warmth that mingled with the stench of decay. Then something darker moved in front of him, something vast. He skidded to a halt, heart in his throat. No, 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 no. It blocked the road, a grotesque caricature of a man, the very shadow that had been lingering behind him. Eyes wide and unblinking, it gave a guttural laugh that twisted Jake's insides. "You thought you could run?" it whispered, your name dripping like poison from its lips. "You'll never leave this road." Jake's breath hitched, time suspending as he realized the truth. He wasn't just stuck, he was shackled to it all. Each road ended here, terror choking him as he stood, stranded in helpless silence. The sound of steps echoed from behind, more shapes emerging from the mist. A sense of doom settled over him. He had to make a choice. As he prepared to flee, something cold touched his shoulder. He snapped around, heart leaping. The hitchhiker stood there, an enigmatic smile carving her features. "Don't worry, Jake," she said softly, "you have all the time in the world now." With a wild scream, Jake lunged for the door, desperate to escape the fate slowly wrapping its claws around him. But the world wasn't ready to let him go. "Wait," the laughter echoed again. "You don't know what's really waiting for you." And as the shadows pounced, it all slipped away into an obscuring fog, swallowing him whole. Could he find a way back to what was lost, or would he be trapped forever in this twisted nightmare? Jake's eyes flew open, but he wasn't in the truck. He found himself sprawled on the ground, the chill of damp earth soaking through his clothes. The stench of decay surrounded him, overpowering and rancid. He sat up, heart pounding, scanning his surroundings. A forest loomed, trees twisted and gnarled, branches reaching like skeletal hands. The air was thick with an unsettling silence that pressed down on him. "Where am I?" he murmured to himself, voice barely a whisper. Had he escaped the truck? Or was this merely another trick played by the malevolent force pursuing him? Panic rose in his throat as he scrambled to his feet. A rustling noise broke the silence. It was faint but unmistakable, like something or someone moving through the underbrush. He crouched low, breath hitching in his chest, eyes darting around. He felt the weight of 1,000 unseen eyes on him. "Hello?" he called, voice trembling. A low giggle bubbled from the shadows, sending icy tendrils creeping down his spine. "Are you lost?" The voice was a lilting mockery, echoing through the trees, sending a shiver through Jake's bones. Jake stumbled back, heart racing. Turning to face the direction the voice had come from, he felt a familiar dread coil in his stomach. He turned, ready to bolt, but stopped short. A flickering light danced in the distance, swaying like a beacon amidst the darkening woods. He took a hesitant step forward, heart pounding harder with each cautious footfall. The forest was dense, branches clawing at him as if protesting his intrusion. Shadows lurked in every corner of his vision, whispering secrets he didn't want to hear. The air thickened, heavy with a palpable malice. "Go back," a voice hissed. "Don't go toward the light." But Jake craved that light. It promised something beyond this suffocating darkness, beyond the snickers echoing from the shadows. With a surge of defiance, he pressed onward. As he approached, the light converged into a clearing, revealing a strange gathering. The trees parted, and there stood figures, their features obscured by cloaks that flowed like smoke. A circle of flickering lanterns surrounded them, casting eerie shadows that flicked across their faces like old film reel ghosts. Jake felt his heart race and his breaths quicken. Were they the ones responsible for his torment? Were they connected to the hitchhiker? He barely had time to think. "What is this?" he shouted, voice trembling with fear and anger. One of the figures stepped forward, dropping the hood from their head. It was the hitchhiker, eyes gleaming with wicked delight. "Welcome to the crossroads, Jake," she said. The others laughed, thin and sharp, cutting through the forest's ambience. "This is where choices are made and where souls are claimed." Fear surged through him. Was he supposed to make a choice here? But who were they to demand his choice? "You can choose to join us," she extended her hand, a sly smile curving her lips. "Or you can run, but it won't change what's coming." Jake felt the ground tremble beneath him, a deep rumble mixed with laughter. The forest pulsed, the trees shifting almost imperceptibly, nodding in agreement. He could feel the pull of darkness again, an ancient desperation urging him to succumb. He scanned the twisted faces surrounding him, realizing this wasn't just about him anymore. It was about the others, too. A glimmer of recognition sparked in his memory, and suddenly those voices came rushing back, echoes of people he had encountered. Those he didn't help. Jake's breath quickened as he grasped the truth. This was where the decisions of his past converged. Could he face what he'd ignored? As he took a step back, ready to flee, the shadows swarmed closer. "You can't escape yourself," the hitchhiker shrieked, her voice a cacophony of pleading and mocking. Time collapsed around him again, and he felt the darkness beckon. Would he face the twisted fate he had crafted? Or would he plunge into the choking night, another lost soul wandering the endless roads? And as Jake stood at the precipice of decision, the echoes of screams reverberated through the trees, and he knew with growing dread that escape might just be an illusion. "Choose wisely, Jake," the hitchhiker warned softly, the light dimming behind her. "Or lose everything you hold dear." What could he do now? Would he have the strength to confront his past? Or would he become yet another whisper in the dark? Jake's heart raced as he felt the shadows close in, the cloaked figures surrounding him seeming to rise from the ground like smoke. He was paralyzed by fear, his body screaming to run, yet his mind screamed back, a frantic battle echoing in his skull. "Join us," the hitchhiker cooed, her grin widening like a rift in the darkness. "You've always known you belong here." Suddenly, flashes of memories engulfed him like a firestorm. Faces of people he'd seen at gas stations, hitchhikers he'd passed without a second thought. Their expressions flickered before him, some pleading, others twisted in anguish. "No," Jake gasped, clenching his fists. "I can't know?" The hitchhiker's laughter echoed, reverberating off the trees. "You think you can escape your own heart? The crossroads call for reckoning. You've ignored their pleas, but you cannot ignore your own." The trees swayed, the air thickening with tension, making each breath a struggle. He locked eyes with the figures. There was something unnaturally alluring about them, some dark gravity that pulled him, a seduction he didn't want. "Choose," they chanted, the sound building, wrapping around him, compressing his chest. "Join the lost or face your past." In that moment, despair clawed at him. What did he have left to hold on to? Regret settled into his bones, a numbing weight. "I can't join you. I want tea." He backed away, feeling the raw power radiating from their silent agreement. The forest seemed to breathe as one thick, rancid, alive. He stumbled, turns uncertain, the flickering lanterns dimming ominously. The darkness pressed against him, eager to cradle him in its abyss. "Run if you must," the hitchhiker taunted, her eyes glinting with malice. "But it won't keep you safe. You can never escape what you've done. They will find you." Gritting his teeth, Jake turned and fled, limbs pumping against the heavy, unyielding air. Branches snagged at his clothes, clawing at his skin as he dashed deeper into the trees, shadows snapping like jaws behind him. Dark whispers filled his ears, an orchestra of despair recounting the choices he had made. "Help me!" a voice croaked, sending icy chills skittering down his spine. Heart racing, he veered toward the sound, desperate yet dreadfully aware that it may lead him further into the trap. As he pushed through the underbrush, he stumbled into a small clearing, the grass knotted and overgrown. In its center lay a patch of flowers, marred by rot, yet vibrant against the decay. Kneeling, he reached for the blossoms, a flicker of hope igniting. Could there be a way out through nature's forgotten embrace? Then he heard it again, soft weeping. The sound pulled him like gravity, anchoring him to this dark oasis. He turned and saw a figure in the distance, slumped against a tree, tears glistening like diamonds. "Help me," they cried, voice strained, desperate. "Please." Jake's heart cracked open, but uncertainty gnawed at him. Was it another trick? A lure to drag him into the waiting souls of despair? "Help who?" the voice whispered in his ear, the hitchhiker's laughter echoing from within the trees. "Do you deserve redemption?" Each second felt like an eternity as he weighed the choice before him. In that moment, he realized the forest wasn't just alive. It was aware. The whispers surged like a storm in his mind, colliding with memories he had fought to forget. Did he dare reach out, risking everything that remained of him? Just as he took a cautious step forward, the ground rumbled beneath him. The trees seemed to shift, shadows undulating with a life of their own. Panic overwhelmed him. Choose, Jake. The voice was everywhere, echoing in the open space. Or be lost in the dark forever. The weight of possibility crashed over him. Could he be the savior, or was he forever consigned to be the wretched of the earth? Fear wrapped around him like a vice, squeezing tighter with every heartbeat. And as he stood teetering between the light of the figure and the engulfing shadows, a chilling thought seized him. Perhaps the real horror was not here but within himself. What would he choose? Would he risk everything to face the pain buried in his heart? Or would he be yet another lost soul, swallowed whole by the darkness? With the weight of decision like a guillotine over his head, Jake understood that whatever choice he made could lead to salvation or damnation. Jake's breath quickened as the realization sunk in. He was trapped, caught between the beckoning light of the mysterious figure and the crushing darkness that surged around him. The shadows seemed to pulse, eager to swallow him whole, while the figure beside the tree wept, shrouded in an eerie glow that flickered in and out like a dying flame. "Help me!" the voice called again, more frantic now. "Please, you have to help me." But how could he trust it? Trust was a fragile thing here, as fragile as the flowers that lay rotting at his feet. The hitchhiker's words echoed in his mind, twisting like a knife. "You can never escape what you've done." He shuddered, memories creeping back like cobwebs in the corners of his mind. "Just go," he whispered to himself, eyes darting back to the shadows growing longer and closer. "Run." Yet his feet remained rooted to the ground. The figure's sobs grew louder, tugging at something deep inside him. He felt a blend of pity and dread. Was it desperation? That same yearning he had felt when he launched his truck into the unknown? Had it brought him here, to this very moment, teetering on the edge of darkness? The underbrush crackled like bones underfoot. He shook his head, fighting against the rising tide of sorrow, yet it pulled him like a current he couldn't ignore. "What do you want?" he called out, his voice trembling. "I want to be free," the figure replied, the weeping subsiding just enough for him to focus. Free from his grasp. Whose grasp? Jake pressed, heart hammering. He felt the shadows close in, swirling around him like a living fog. The hitchhiker's laughter reverberated in the air, mocking him from the safety of the darkness. But the figure leaned forward, revealing a face obscured by shadows. With wide eyes shimmering with truth and despair, they whispered, "The one who took me." Suddenly, a realization struck. It wasn't just a lost soul standing before him. It was a mirror reflecting Jake's own fears. "I can't help you. I don't know how." His voice shook, panic bubbling in his throat. "You know more than you think." The figure's eyes pierced through him. You left me behind once. You chose regret over salvation. The ground beneath Jake trembled violently. The trees swayed like dancers in a storm, whispering secrets of the damned. Jake clenched his fists, memories rushing back faces from his past like shreds of broken glass. The woman who had caught his eye at a rest stop, needing a ride. The hitchhikers he'd seen on the highway always just out of reach. A guilt, buried and festering, clawed its way back to the surface. He took a step forward, filled with dread. He had done this before, turned his back when he should have acted. But it might cost him everything. I won't abandon you, he shouted, uncertainty twisting his gut. The figure's expression changed, morphing into something almost resembling hope, or was it a trick? The shadows recoiled for a brief moment, creating an eerie stillness that sent chills down his spine. Then open your heart, the figure urged as the light enveloped them like a fragile cocoon. Shed your past. You must choose. Jake froze, torn between choices he never wanted to confront. To step into the light meant confronting his failings, a battle against his own demons. But to step back into the darkness would seal his fate as a lost soul bound forever to this forsaken place. He glanced between the figure and the shadows. Gritting his teeth, he took a hesitant step forward. I choose no more darkness. But the moment his words left his lips, the ground shook violently, shattering his resolve. The trees began to shriek, their branches clawing at him like skeletal hands. The hitchhiker emerged from the fog, laughter shrill and cruel. You can't escape your past, Jake. It will come for you. And just as he grasped for the obliterating light, the shadows lunged, wrapping around him like chains of despair. The choice lay before him, distorted and grotesque. Somewhere within him, a final scream echoed. Was there time left to change? Or would he finally become one with the lost? As darkness surged, drowning out his vision, one chilling thought remained. Maybe it wasn't about what he had done, but about what he was about to do. What lay ahead in this treacherous night? Would the shattered pieces of his soul weave back together? Or would he plunge into a darkness deeper than he ever imagined? The darkness closed in tightly, squeezing the breath from Jake's lungs. He could feel the weight of fate pressing down on him, and the chains of regret clinked ominously around him as he twisted in panic. The shadows writhed and twisted, whispering threats and promises of eternal damnation. Just as despair threatened to overwhelm him, the figure beside the tree surged forward, reaching out a hand that seemed to stretch beyond the limits of this world. Together, it implored, voice dripping with urgency. We can break free. Jake's heart raced as he teetered on the edge of action. Could he trust this creature, this reflection of his own guilt? Every fiber of his being screamed for him to run, yet something deep inside, a flicker of unresolved hope, compelled him to consider this desperate alliance. The shadows flickered, mimicking the movement of the figure's arm, and in that dark mist, Jake glimpsed fleeting images. Faces twisted in torment, eyes wide with fear, all melting into nothingness. Each face held a piece of his past, each a reminder of choices unmade, lives untouched by his selfishness. His breath hitched, the memories clawing at him, demanding recognition. Make your choice, Jake, the figure hissed, voice strained as if fighting against a terrible force that threatened to drag it back to the grave. You have to decide before it's too late. In that instant, clarity sliced through the confusion. He did not merely stand before the figure. He stood before himself. The weight of his past pressed down like a boulder, ready to crush him. I can't do this alone, he cried out, the shadows swirling closer, hungry to consume him. Then don't. Let me help you. The figure's voice resonated with an intensity that softened the chilling grip of the night, drawing him closer with every word. We belong together. All I need is your faith. Jake's pulse thundered in his ears as he reached out, feeling the warmth of the figure's hand pierce through the cold dread that surrounded him. As their fingers touched, a surge of energy coursed through him, igniting a fire in his chest. The shadows hissed in fury as the light brightened, illuminating the space between them, casting long shadows that danced like tortured souls. But suddenly, the hitchhiker's laughter rang out, an unholy cacophony that shattered the moment like glass. You think you can simply escape? You're tied to the darkness, Jake. You belong here. The figure's grip faltered, the warmth fading as icy fingers clenched around Jake's throat, lifting him off the ground. Panic flooded his veins. He could feel the shadows tearing at his skin, whispers tinged with malice filling the air. You cannot escape your darkness. You will always be drawn back. Desperation clawed at him. No, I choose to fight. He gritted his teeth, determination rising in his chest. With a solitary thought, a mantra, he focused on that flicker of light, the warmth of the figure he nearly abandoned. Together, he shouted, and with every ounce of strength he had left, he yanked that presence forward. The light exploded around him, ripping through the darkness. The shadows recoiled, screeching like banshees. The figure transformed, shifting from a specter into a radiant being, pulsating with fierce energy. Jake felt the ground tremble beneath him as he was pulled deeper into a purging light. Heart pounding, he glimpsed a massive dark figure on the edge of the woods, its pair of hollow eyes locked on him with an insatiable hunger. You cannot outrun your demons, a growled voice like gravel and smoke. As the light surged, he felt his essence splintering, the pieces of him unraveling like threads in a frayed tapestry. Was this the path to salvation? Or was he simply trading one darkness for another? Time seemed to fragment, and in that instant, as the shadows wailed their lament, Jake could almost discern the paths diverging, could feel the breath of the unknown brushing his skin. What awaited him on the other side of light? Would he find freedom, or would he stumble deeper into despair than he ever thought possible? And as he hurtled towards the burning bright, the last whisper of darkness echoed, "You can never escape your past." The light engulfed Jake, searing bright and violently alien. He felt as though he was falling, not up, but down into a void tinged with echoes of his own screams. The brilliant glow twisted and morphed, and suddenly he was ripped from warmth. Cold air clawed at him, icy hands dragging him into bleakness once more. He landed hard on wet ground, gasping as shadows slithered back into familiar shapes. The figure of light was gone, leaving him alone, shivering with sweat-soaked clothes and a heart pounding like a drum. The encroaching darkness felt alive, as if every shadow bore witness to his failures. Jake staggered to his feet, the rhythmic crunch of leaves echoing underfoot. His breath came out in shallow bursts, fear wrapped tightly around him like a suffocating veil. The weight of anguish settled back on his chest. "Where am I?" he gasped, scanning the encroaching trees with desperate urgency. In the place where it all began, a voice crooned from the dark, low and teasing. It reverberated, curling around him like mist. Jake turned sharply, tracing the sound's origin. A figure appeared, stepping into a patch of moonlight, a hitchhiker dressed in the same grungy clothes. The face was twisted with cruel mirth, eyes sparkling with sinister delight. "You thought the light would save you? Like a moth to flame, Jake, always drawn to the fire. Get away from me!" Jake shouted, but his voice fell flat in the darkness. The hitchhiker stepped closer, the smile widening unnaturally, revealing sharp teeth that glinted in the dimness. "I'm not here to harm you, at least, not yet," they teased, dancing around Jake like a serpent. "I'm just here to remind you what you left behind. All those choices, the lives you wrecked, they're waiting for you, you know." The shadows thickened, reaching out in long fingers to grab him, to drag him back. Images of terrified faces flashed within those voids, pleading, "They don't want you to forget, Jake." The hitchhiker's laughter echoed in the night, cackling, hollow, full of taunts. No, Jake shook his head violently, backing away. Memories flooded over him, haunting visions of abandoned friends, choices made for selfish gain, a childhood spent pushing others aside for his own gain. The guilt weighed heavy, he could feel it choking him. "Do you think you can escape this?" The hitchhiker spat, voice laced with acid. "You think you can run from your past? But you can't run from truth. Can you? They are here and they want their reckoning." In a twist of fate, silhouettes formed from the shadows, faces contorting in agony, whispering his name, demanding attention. Jake stumbled back, terror squeezing his heart. Enough! I won't let you take me. He threw his arm out, instinctively trying to push back the darkness that encircled him. Then fight. The figure snarled, gesturing wildly toward the spectral forms. A dance of rage and accusation. Face them. Face all the people you ignored. Desperation clawed him from within. He dropped to his knees, clutching his head. What do you want from me? He screamed, the very souls in front of him blurring into haze. Redemption is a path laced with struggle, Jake. Embrace it, or be consumed. He looked up, the weight of their gazes relentless. Each face was a reminder of his failures, a mirror of his shame. A piercing chill arced through him, and he stood up, trembling but fueled with a flicker of something alive, something electric. Maybe he could fight. Maybe he would show his past he was no longer afraid. But the hitchhiker's laughter crashed against him, cold and mocking. You think you can atone? You haven't even begun to know the true nature of your sins. At that moment, shadows shifted, swirling around him, each vengeful soul clawing toward him. Desperation morphed into defiance. Jake stepped forward, heart thundering. He would confront them, face whatever consequence awaited him. As he plunged into the gathering storm of whispers, shadows clung to him like a waking nightmare. Did he still have a choice? And as he braced for the confrontation, the haunting murmur lingered one final thought. That pinched him relentlessly. They are not the only ones seeking the light. Jake found himself standing at the crossroads, the weight of countless memories pressing down on his shoulders like an anchor. The shadows danced around him, each flickering figure representing a decision unmade, a life unhelped. Fear twisted in his gut, yet the nagging flame of determination flickered within. Face us, a voice echoed, a haunting familiarity digging into his consciousness. With each word, the figures stepped closer, their expressions twisting in endless mixtures of sorrow and anger. Flickers of recognition illuminated his memory, haunted faces begging for understanding, thirsting for redemption. I can't change the past, he shouted, voice cracking, feeling small against the ferocity of those he had ignored. One figure, a woman with sorrowful eyes, stepped forward. But you can address it. You can give us acknowledgement, Jake. You owe us that much. He felt their collective weight pressing down, unforgiving shadows hauntingly close, each one a reflection of his guilt. But amid the dread, something shifted within him. A fierce resolve ignited. He stepped forward, squaring his shoulders. I'm here now. I'm ready to confront what I've done. The laughter ceased, replaced by a profound stillness that enveloped them. Faces that were once twisted in grief began to soften, hope sparkling in their gaze. Good, the hitchhiker hissed, her form weaving through the shadows. Let us see if that resolve holds. With her words, the darkness surged, pressing inward, a tide of despair clawing at his sanity. I refuse to be consumed. I refuse to let the darkness win. Jake shouted, the conviction in his voice echoing through the night. He could feel the energy buzz around him, the spectral forms shifting, waiting, anticipating. This was his moment. He fought against their darkness with a desperate strength. I owe you all my courage, my truth. Forgive me. The words tumbled out in a rush, an intense release. And as he spoke, the shadows recoiled. They twisted, and in their retreat, something softened, the air lightened. The figures began to smile, an eerie light shimmering through the abyss. Forgiveness isn't for us, Jake. A man with anguished eyes said softly. It's for you. Accept it. With every ounce of his being, Jake stepped into the light, embracing the warmth. A brilliant glow enveloped him, swirling around his heart, setting free the pain that had choked him for so long. The faces transformed, laughing and nodding, unburdened by their grief. Let go, they urged, voices like a symphony lifting the weight of their torment from him. Jake inhaled deeply, the warmth melting away his fears, soothing the scars etched into his soul. I'm so sorry, he murmured, voice trembling with renewed emotion. I see you now. I know. Suddenly, the hitchhiker stood before him, eyes blazing with fury. "You think you can escape me? You think this absolves you?" Jake felt the ground tremble beneath him. "It does more than that. I'm not running anymore." He faced her, fear mingling with newfound strength. "I'm embracing what I had shunned and choosing to move forward." As if struck, the hitchhiker stumbled back, shadows spiraling into chaos. "You were foolish, Jake. All I have ever wanted is to remind you." "Remind me?" he retorted, heart raging with clarity. "The lives I lost? The happiness I turned away from? They never wanted revenge. They sought understanding, and now I will carry that forward." With a piercing scream, the hitchhiker dissolved into the shadows, a momentary flicker of agony. Jake felt the air shift, a rush of clarity flooding through him. He was free. The laughter from the figures deepened into a chorus of joy, their faces shimmering in vibrant hues, their burdens lifted. Light enveloped him, radiant warmth subtly filling every anguished crevice of his heart. "I'm ready," he said, voice steady. "I will honor your memories and the choices yet to come." The wind swirled around him, lifting him free from the grip of despair, guiding him onward. As he stepped into the glowing embrace of the light, it beckoned him forward, inviting hope. Each step echoed through the woods, and with it, a newfound purpose began to unfurl within him. He had become the light, the answer to lost souls who once wandered aimlessly through the night. He awoke the next morning in his truck, sunlight streaming through the windows, the crisp air refreshing against his skin. For the first time he felt alive, unshackled from the chains that had bound him. He breathed deeply, a sense of clarity washing over him. There was a path ahead, clear, bright, and abundant with possibilities. With a newfound determination, Jake started the engine and hit the road, ready to meet whatever awaited. Today was about choices yet to be made, the kind that would help heal both himself and others. As he drove down the open highway, the shadows receded behind him, a haunting reminder of the past. Sure, but now just that, a reminder. He chose to live, to be free. The weight lifted. Jake forged ahead with a resolve like never before, bound for horizons where hope bloomed. The open road now sung with promise. If you enjoyed this thrilling conclusion, don't just sit there. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and keep us going strong. I want to hear your reactions and theories about Jake's journey. Flood the comments section below. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything, and only true fans understand how important it is. Let us keep this community alive together.